you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm host Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Who let that woman into the room? They're the opera singer. She sings it way better than I did for the first 14 years of the show. Welcome to 2,400 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. 16 years. Boy, is my back tired. I just flew in. Anyway, guys, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. I think it's supposed to be your arms are tired, but my back does hurt in old age too. So I don't know. Just go with the jokes. They're not all great people. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may buy advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking to her about her new book that she's talking to people about, and it is entitled Breaking the Bias of English, How English Disempowers Women and How to Fix It with Only 6 Words. February 6, 2024, Vivian Probst joins us on the show. We're going to get into it and find out her data there, and she's a multi-book author too, so we might tease out some of her other books that she's got in the novels there. The novel arena. I don't know what I'm trying to do as a joke there, but the novel arena, that's what they call it, right? The kids call it the novel arena. Anyway, Vivian is a linguist, and she's already given me F's on everything I've said so far. And she's an award-winning author and she's a researcher as well. She's a national consultant to the affordable housing industry for over 30 years. She is now retired after doing that and spent 15 years studying how to make English a fair language while traveling the country, captivating audience with her unique style of teaching tax regulations and, importantly, sharing her "You Make a Difference" message.
Absolutely.
And you can see more on her websites, which we'll get from her right now. Vivian, welcome to the show. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Great to be here. I have 2 sites. We have vivianprobst.com and we have Winglish for wequality.com. We'll get more into the we part of English for Equality in just a few minutes.
Yeah. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book?
Oh, yeah. Well, this new book has been part of my heart and soul probably most of my life. I was raised in a very conservative family. Women were below men in terms of authority. We were to respect men and obey men. And I love men. Men are wonderful. But I could not buy in to that philosophy. And I had to eventually leave that whole belief system to figure out what my life was about and what I wanted to do. So English, the English language is the most common language now in the world because there are both primary speakers or native speakers, and now we have second language speakers. And if you put them all together, English is the language that everybody's learning. So I went through life fascinated with words, but absolutely troubled by the concept that women were not as important as men. And I eventually had to leave that. That's a hard way of life to leave. And when you are raised that way, it's hard to get over. I had to go into a second marriage to find my way out because my life was ruled by men. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that happens to a lot of women. And so in that process, I learned to become equal. And I believe there are a lot of women who have a hard time with equality. I really want us to learn that being equal is possible. One of our big challenges that we don't think about is our use of words. And English is a hugely masculine language, and I have studied it, and I have come up with a way to make it a fairer language. You cannot read, speak words full of masculine bias as a woman and feel equal. So if we really want to be equal, and I believe we do, what would you say, Chris? Do women want to be equal? Don't we all just want that in life?
I mean, equality, but can I be the devil's advocate here?
Oh, absolutely.
Wouldn't using the same language be equal?
Oh, yeah, English, but I want to share how English is so primarily masculine so we can take 6 words and make English work for women. For instance, Chris, what are the words we use for women in our language? Women, how do we spell that? This is not a spelling test. You're not required to.
I might fail it,
No.
old age brain. But you want me to do it? I'll do it if you want. I'll play along. Women, WOMEN.
MEN. So you notice that we're attached to men. All right. Now, woman, singular woman, is WOMAN. So there again, we're attached. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that in English, women don't have words of their own. We don't have words. So if you want to fix that, if you think it's important, and I want to ask your audience, what does it mean if women don't have words? I know, is that important? And so I have taken the English language apart, studied it, and come up with some words that women can use, that we can use, that bring us equalness, that level the playing field. Because, Chris, this might not be your life calling, but my life calling has been to study English. Did you know that English has over 20,000 words that invoke man words? He, him, his, sir, guy, all these words. And we can't help, when we read English, when we see English, we can't help it that our minds pick up the inner workings of these words, and they're planted in our psyches. This is not commonly known, and most people are stunned when I talk about this because we've never really thought about it. We never have, but I have, and equality is only possible if we can be equal, and it's hard to be equal when our whole language is oriented toward men. So we want to fix that.
There you go.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What I wanted to just clarify for everyone, there's also another example you were probably getting to of the he, she, her on top of that, and then they, I think. Those are the 6 words, the, she, her, woman, and those are the 6 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No,
my brain is, I got a big camera on my screen too here, so I'm working that. So you want to make words for women that don't have, what do you call this when there's like a core or a primary thing in a word that I think there's a word for this.
Root. I don't know. A root.
There you go. Root. There you go. A rootness or root. There you go. not to be confused with Groot, the guy from the movie. Yeah, there's like a root. What you're talking about is there's a root thing that specifies men, women, her, she, thee. So thee has a he in it. She has the he in it. Her, or a he is okay. I see it now. I was getting used to seeing it at the front and at the back. So her, woman, men. It does. I do see, if I can play devil's advocate again, it is interesting that in most of these, the female additive to it, I think there's some of this in Spanish, isn't there? Don't they? They're just different words or variations and for female and masculine. But it's interesting to me they come at the beginning of the words women,
adding a WO,
the and woman, which is interesting because it kind of puts the first as a priority in the word. I don't know.
Well, that's a new focus for me. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Here's the
except
thing.
for her, he is at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of
the interesting thing is that wherever man or men or he or his or surga, wherever these show up in a word, they draw our attention. And so my work has been to free that up, to loosen that up. I want to focus, if I can, for a moment on the word the. Because as you've already observed, the he is in the. You know Charlemagne the God. You've heard of Charlemagne the God? Yeah, he's got the Breakfast
Rapper,
Club. Anyway, he spells the THA. And the importance of that is the is our most common word in English. By far, it is the most common word. So it means that the orientation toward he words is so prevalent, and we don't even know it. We don't even recognize it. And my work is to help women, well, and men, but I want women to understand that if you want to be equal, you've got to have some words that don't attach you to men. That's just got to happen. And so that's my work, and you've picked up the words. So if the is the most common word in English, well, why do we always spell it THE? Now, I don't want to turn this into a grammar lesson at all because, but
it kind of is one. It's a fun little wordplay.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
Think of our words a and an. A and an, we use them specifically for different reasons. That's the same meaning, the same word, but we say, for instance, in my book, I talk about a chicken and egg. We just say it that way because saying a chicken and chicken or a egg doesn't sound right. So we use a and an interchangeably. And so I would like to propose that we do the same thing with the, because we most often say the. We don't say the unless the next word starts with a vowel. Now that might be a mental dance that people don't want to take, but the point is we say the so much that wouldn't it be nice if we would treat the same way as we do a and an? So if we say the, spell it THE. If it's the, spell it THA. And I use Charlemagne the God because he's the one who has taken the and made THA a spelling that we can accept. And it's awesome because the THE in the is now subdued, and we're able to use two spellings, and that neutralizes English with just one word. Do you think I'm in a little deep? I'm in really deep in this. I've been doing this for 15 years, and you're able to take this out to hundreds of thousands of people. And so that's word one.
Hey, can I expand on that a little bit? I was giggling a little bit because I realized from what you were saying, when you say the, as the THE, you're really spelling THEE, the, I'm thinking of biblical sense. I think of some of the terms.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. It is kind of weird how we pronounce stuff in this language, and it varies.
It's a weird language. I just want women to have some words of their own. And I'm a linguist, so let's do it phonetically, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's spell it like it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So women, WIMIN. Okay? Women, okay? Mm-hmm. And woman, WOMUN. All right? And this unhinges women from having men and man and male attached to how these words are spelled, and gives women some of their own words. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
So is that
how liberating it is? Yes.
So is that give me the corrected spelling that you want to utilize for all these words? I think the one was WIMIN.
You got it.
Okay.
Women. Okay. WIMIN. Woman. WOMUN. And this is all in my book. She, SHI, her, HER, they, THAY. These are so simple and so normal. Putting HE in these words, or MAN, MEN, it is old. You talk about Old English. This is really old. Do you know that Old English had 6 spellings for the?
Mm-hmm.
Too much. Masculine, feminine, neutral. Now we have one, and it's just everything's, we just want to fix that. What do you think?
I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, if people want to do it, I mean, I'm one of those people that, hey man, as long as you want to do something, you don't hurt anybody with it, you're fine. And it's age appropriate, like, don't bother people under 18 sort of thing. But, hey, it's a free country, man. I mean, we've had plenty of people on the show that have pronouns, and, sometimes that gets a little confusing. I remember we had, I'm not even sure. I think we had they on the show.
Sure.
And, one of the challenges was when we did the research for the show, all the news outlets had referred to her as a she because she hadn't chosen to become they yet. And so her bio on everything, it was the bio that gave away. I read all this background on this information, and it, she, and it's a female name, blah, blah, blah. And so when she came on the show, I didn't know she'd become a they. And so I was reading the bio, and the theys came up, and I went, oh shit. And I introduced her as a wonderful young lady, because that's one of the tricks we do with all the people who come on the show. We make everyone feel good and young. So, it's a wonderful young lady we have on the show. And then I got to the bio, and it's like, they.
Oh.
So, but I'm open, if you want to be called they, them, hey, him, sheepdog, whatever. I mean, I'm all cool with it, as long as no one's getting hurt, it's language. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have is, we see this in comedy where comedians are just getting killed now because, no one can take a joke, and they're usually some of the best wordsmiths, and, so many people tone police and can't take a joke, and can't, the inability to laugh at the human condition is the last vestige of hope for us, because if we can't laugh at how silly we are sometimes, whatever.
English is silly.
Yeah.
All right. English.
I flunked it.
My work is more serious, but English is such a strange language. I'll give you a couple of words, like the word blame.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that word apart, it's be lame. It's hilarious because really, blame makes us lame.
Lame.
And that's how I like to see it. So when we split words apart, you can get great humor, and that's what the comedians are doing.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done with words for years. I split them into their smallest segment. My focus is on, is this a good word, an empowering word, a word that is freeing, or is it not? And that's where I that's where I spend my time. So I'm serious about English, but I also get how hilarious it is.
Yeah. Or like sometimes insulting. Like one of the things that people do is they'll assume something about me, and they'll write me in and be like, you do this. And I'm like, where in the world did you get that impression? Well, I assumed it based upon what this, that, and the other. And you're like, do you understand that with assume, you break it down, you make an ass out of you and me. Assume.
Yes.
I usually throw that as, that's my favorite thing.
Well, that is so fabulous. So my life oriented me toward a belief system that diminished women. And I came out of that and I look for how can we be equal? Because it's a big deal. Because women just don't feel equal. I think it's getting better, don't you? I think we're more conscious anyway.
Pretty good on the equal thing. I there's some edging that women have that, they can get, one of my gal pals was telling me about how she gets she just got a business thing with the government where she gets, some advantages for business deals. I forget what it's called, women-based business or something like that.
Okay, sure.
I'm not a fan of what's going on in our politics right now, but you've seen some of the disabling of some of the stuff that was leaning heavily on the plates of, it really didn't make things equal, I think. Yeah. So there's some of that. Now, one thing I want to also clarify for listeners about your book, you need to buy it, folks, though, first, is on the cover you say, welcome to Winglish for we quality. Winglish for we quality. And so there's a W at the beginning of there, and it's more of a we than what it was before. Is that part of the language change you want us to make?
Or that's the website name. That is my mission. I want equality, and I like we as a word. So we are taking we English for we quality, because English is too biased, and we can balance it and neutralize it very easily, but we have to consciously do that. So Winglish for we quality is the name of the website.com if you're interested in that. I'm just very passionate about learning how women feel about having a few words that focus on them, because we are just drowned. We are drowned in he words. And I believe I have seen women after the shock wears off, because you and I are talking for a few minutes, but it takes a while to wrap your head around this. But I have seen women soften and smile and get that, oh, wow. Wouldn't it be nice to have some words of our own? And that's what it is. English or language is so deep inside of us that we don't get how pervasive and how subtly it affects us. And so on the serious side of English, I want to fix that for women. WIMIN.
There you go. So why did you become a linguist? What drove you into that arena?
Oh, yeah, I skipped over that part. My family was very evangelical Christian. And by the way, if you want a word split that's interesting, take evangelical apart. You don't have to do it now. But yes, anyway, we were very, very good Christians, and I love God, and I was raised that way. But our family had an emphasis on missions. And so we all went into missionary training. And part of my training was linguistics, because the emphasis of the organization I belonged to was to write down previously unwritten languages. So you had to learn word sounds so that you could write the word sounds down so you could form a written language. And that was my early life. And I left that because I could not stand how women were treated in that society, because women were less than. And I didn't believe that. So you can see that equality has been a thread through my whole life. And getting this, dealing with English, I just want us to be aware of what we can do about it. And it's very simple.
You mentioned you grew up in religion. What was your childhood like?
Right and wrong. I would say it was a good childhood, as long as you didn't step outside the boundaries. Yeah, it was good. As I grew up, I just couldn't. I mean, I went with my first husband to Africa, and we were going to live there, and we were going to convert these Africans, and I fell apart because that's when I got that I could not be who they wanted me to be. And if you're going to be yourself, you have to give up. The things that you don't agree with, you have to say, I don't agree. And so I had to leave all of that behind. And but it was, I love my family. I love so much about my life. And my life has just expanded in ways that I could not have imagined. And you're right, I do have other books, and they're mostly novels. And
I like the titles of them too. I was like, we've had a lot of romance novels on the show, and they always have really cool titles. It's kind of funny.
So
I like the wordplay in that.
We have. I have a 4-book series. The Woman Who Forgot Who She Was. I hope you'll show it somewhere, because I can't possibly say these in a way that people will be able to figure them out or remember them. But if they go to vivianprobst.com, it's all there. It's very easy. I write what I call intention fiction. And that is, I've been writing for 25 years. And typically, life gives me something to work on that I will write fiction about. And I write to understand what the story is. I don't know the story, but it takes me several years usually to write a book. And by the end of that story, I get this wonderful message, this treasure. I've been doing that for most of my adult life, and it's just awesome. I am working on hopefully getting interest in a movie for my award-winning book, which is Death by Roses, which is hilarious and tragic and everything in between.
There you go. Well, I mean, that's a rom-com, right? Or is it a rom-com?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now, do we want to plug? I see some notes here about a Can If Fund. Charitable work.
That's my charitable organization. After I left Africa and came back, I live in Wisconsin, came to Wisconsin, I found a women's group to help women who were going through major life changes. And after they helped me find a job, and within a few years, I was making lots of money, and I was able to travel the country. I was teaching these tax regulations. And I decided to endow that women's center with proceeds from the sales of my book. So CANIF, CAN-IF. See, I love to play with words. I can't help it. But the message of CANIF is we can if our children have childcare while we mothers are getting back into the work world, which is where I was at that time. And so, that's how I give back and say thank you to the Women's Center for helping me.
Now, is that on the same website that we have for you? Or is it on a separate website? I
don't think it's on a website. Shame on me.
Okay.
Oh, shame. Oh, there's a good word.
You don't need to shame anyone.
No.
What's in the shame?
Yeah, but this is just another example of what happens with words. S-H-M-me, shame. Shame is so much a part of life if we refuse to be who we are, to talk. Women tend to shush themselves, and that's my word split on shame. Throw that in.
Okay. And then you let me offer one thing, because there's a note here that I have in our notes about. I think you blame English for being so patriarchal. I think we figured that out or established that. Let me ask you this as a linguist, because does most of our sort of language derive from the Bible? And you'd probably have to do a lot of changing the Bible, right? Does our language come a lot from the Bible? I don't know.
No,
Is it?
no, it comes from Old English, but
Okay.
English comes from so many different languages.
Mm-hmm.
Open a dictionary or get online, and etymology, as you mentioned earlier, is the meaning of words and how the history of words and how it developed. And you will see all the old languages that English is a composite of. And that's why English is so challenging, because it's a smattering of many older languages. And so English came into existence after these other languages. And that's why it's kind of a melting pot of words. Mm-hmm. And it's not that English is biblical. It's that the people who worked on language over the years, patriarchy has permeated our society for so long that these words naturally gravitated toward patriarchal words. And that's where this all comes from. And so all I want to do is help women get out of a sense of inequality, become equal, and English has to come along for the ride. It has to come along. It has to give us some words. Damn it.
There you go. Well, you have written the book and you're touring around. You speak too, right? To talk to people. So if anybody's hearing this, they can bring you on board to do it. So anything more we want to plug before we go out?
I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hear from people. Mm-hmm. So I would like to plug my email address, which is vivian@vivianprobst.com, and use nice words, okay? And I would like to know how particularly women feel about having some words of their own. I mean, laughter, shock. I've had weeping because it's so freeing. Whatever it is, I'd like to hear from your world.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So it's been wonderful to have you on the show, insightful, and we've done some great wordplay. And, the people, this is why we love the show. Different paradigms, different ways of thinking, different ways of looking outside of the box. And, there's always a way to improve everything, as we like to say.
Well, that's so true.
There you go. So, everybody put your heads together and decide if you like it or not and fix it or whatever. I mean, like I said, I think wordplay is interesting in comedy and in life, and people of course know a lot of words. Women seem to know more words than men. That's for darn sure. I've heard that. Too many
words that men use for women are so derogatory. I don't want to go out on that, but it's also true that there's a lot more words like that for women than there are for men, and that's another way that women can become more equal, is to give themselves words that are not so unflattering or attached to men.
There you go.
Love men. Just know that. Love men.
There you go. Well, Vivian, it's been wonderful and insightful to have you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And give us your .coms one last time.
Yeah. VivianProbst.com and We English for We Quality. If you just get on VivianProbst.com, you'll find it, and you can link through that.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's entitled Breaking the Bias of English, How English Disempowers Women and How to Fix It in Only 6 Words, out February 6, 2024. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
And that should happen.